Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Wednesdays with Woody, where we interrupt your regular Wednesdays to bring you this hot ass mess of a show.
It's Wednesdays.
If you haven't guessed it, I'm your host, Woody Woods, and this week I'm trying to just center myself and just ease my way into the spring season that has burst into fruition down here in South Africa. Love it. Over the last couple of days, the weather has been relatively warm, or warmer than it's been in these last couple of months, which have been quite a chilly affair. So I'm eagerly anticipating, though I'm finding that it might just get ridiculously hot, but I'm eagerly anticipating all this warm weather that we're about to just immerse ourselves in. And seeing that tomorrow is the first of spring, happy spring day to every South African. I hope that you guys are having or are going to have just the most, epic weekend ever. I can't wait for it. I'm uber excited for this weekend. I want to do absolutely nothing, which is not uncommon from any of my other weekends. But this particular weekend, I just want to relax and chill out with my bae and hopefully just have a really good weekend. A good, peaceful weekend. No drama, no fuss, no driving up and down all over the show. But I know that won't be the case. I know that Ryan will have me in every store under the sun looking for whatever new experiment he wants to undertake in our home. If this is the first time that you're joining us, thank you so much for lending me your time and your ears as we journey through these Wednesday sessions where we'll be discussing Lord knows what. And if you're a returning listener, I am always appreciative of you just, taking the time out of your schedules just to tune in and listen to these Wednesdays with Woody sessions. As always, I'm always keen for feedback. So if you guys have any comments that you want to drop me or leave me or whatever the case might be, you can find me on all social networks. Social media platforms. You can find me on all social media platforms. Just search I am Woody Woods and I will sure to read and respond to each of your questions and whatever topics you guys might want to discuss. I'm always keen for some fresh input and insight. Okay, now with all of that, hoo-ha. With all of that hoo-ha all said and done, let's get into this week's session. There has been so much happening in the news this past week, but let's be real. When is there not something happening in the news? But there's been a lot happening in the news this past week, specifically around what's trending. On Friday, Britney Spears and Elton John released their single, Hold Me Closer, which was really, really good. I had apprehensions around the song, being that, I was just like, I thought she was taking a break, but here she is again, giving us something quite beautiful, quite beautiful from Britney Spears, which I really do appreciate. I think I've heard the song a couple of times. It's not something I think I'll be listening to for an extended period of time, like I've been doing with Renaissance. But it's a good track. It's a good feel-good track, and I think the timing was right at this time of the year, seeing that the Northern Hemisphere is winding down into autumn and the Southern Hemisphere is gearing up for a hot spring and summer. So I think the song was well placed. Just listening to its tones and its harmonies around what time of year it was placed, and also it just coincided with the VMAs, which have always been known for artists releasing good music around this time of the year, or particularly just around the VMAs themselves. So I really did quite enjoy the track. Britney Spears, though, coincidentally did deactivate her Instagram account just before the song was released. I'm not really sure why, and I really didn't want to do any investigation because I do have a sort of a soft spot for the experience that she's undergoing currently in her life. having come out of the conservatorship and just trying to find her way in this world. So she deactivated her Instagram account, but she is well and alive and kicking on Twitter, which has been quite entertaining for me just to read some of her tweets. The track has been doing really, really well. I don't think it will have the kind of longevity as in week after week after week it will be trending, but it might. I don't know. Just from my own personal experience, I don't think it will. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks max. But even that, I might just be pushing it. But it is a good, feel-good track. Quite catchy. Ryan, on the other hand, he loves Britney Spears. I don't have the same kind of fandom for her, but he loves Britney Spears, and he was anticipating the song and he was really underwhelmed by it. In fact, he prefers the bootleg versions of it where you can actually hear the vocals of Elton John and Britney Spears, as opposed to the release track, which has a more muted vocal tone compared to the music in the background. So yeah, Britney Spears released that with Elton John. There was also the VMAs this weekend. I stopped watching the VMAs a long time ago, which I'm always disappointed in. I used to have such a love for sitting down in front of the TV as a child and just waiting for the VMAs to come on so I could just catch what was new, what was trending in terms of the music scene and what artists were currently doing. I have taken a backseat to that because I'm just like, oh, no. I don't know why, actually. It's just a no for me. But I did, and I was really, I don't know, we're going to go on a Lil Nas X rant here. Lil Nas X was there at the VMAs. I really did love his outfit. It was really, really cute. It's good to see and I'm going to be very deliberate about this, it's good to see a black, queer, gay man being able to be so free and alive, specifically in the music industry and on such a large platform. As I've said in previous podcasts before, I think representation is really important, and it's really important for black queer men to be able to see another black queer man take up space and to own his sexuality and not to hide or dim it down or try to portray different versions of it. So his outfit was super cute, and he also did a couple of outfit changes, maybe just one, I'm not really sure, which were also just really, really cute. But yeah, the VMAs were this weekend. Let's see, who were the winners? It was the usual suspects. BTS, Nicki Minaj, Doja Cat, Harry Styles, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who I haven't heard from in a while, Lil Nas X, Billie Eilish. Gosh, like nothing new under the sun. And maybe this is exactly why I stopped watching the VMAs. There's so much music in the world, and it's always really, I don't want to say frustrating, but there is a lot of music in the world and there are a lot of artists in the world, and I don't know, maybe it's the whole commercialization of that art form that really puts me off a lot. Not that I hate music, I will always be a music lover, but yeah, the usual suspects. Nothing new under the sun here. But in some exciting news, Meghan Markle released her podcast, which I think went number 1 on Spotify. I'm not necessarily a fan of Meghan Markle or the royals, or I don't really keep up with what's happening in that sphere of the world, but I do always want to celebrate when someone has had such a great achievement. You know, her first podcast, I think, did better than, what's his name? The way I've just completely forgotten it because I just find him so irrelevant. I think it's Joe Rogan. Yes, Joe Rogan. Her podcast kicked him off of his number 1 spot on Spotify, though reports have said in the past that this is not something unfamiliar, that there are weeks where he's not number 1. I still do wonder why his podcast is up and running and flourishing, but it is what it is. Given some of the views that he expressed during COVID-19 and some of the other materials that we had discovered earlier on this year, but that's neither here nor there. I will not get into it. But congratulations congratulations to her. I believe for her first episode, she had Serena Williams on there. I haven't yet had time to just take an hour out of my day just to listen to the podcast, but I sure as hell will. From what the Twitter sphere was busy saying, I mean, I woke up on Saturday morning, and I did read some of the comments from, I suppose, allegedly South African accounts, which were just saying that her podcast wasn't entirely truthful. She had painted South Africa in a very negative light, and I believe the UK press somehow got involved in this whole, I don't know, in this whole debacle of painting South Africa in this way. And it turned out later on that a whole bunch of bots had been paid for to really slander the podcast and, I don't know, shine a negative light on what she was trying to do with it, which for me is problematic on so many levels. But I do have a belief that no press is bad press, and it appears to have worked well in her favor. I do wish her success on this venture. I think it would be really interesting to hear from her friends and their views and what they think about, I don't know, whatever they're discussing, which I will make sure to listen to sometime during this week. And then finally, TikTok was in an uproar this past weekend when a TikToker did a duet of Drew Barrymore, I believe, walking through the rain. In her duet, she felt like, I don't know, Drew Barrymore had somehow appropriated black culture, which was a bit confusing and misleading entirely. It wasn't clear what her point was, to be honest with you, as though rain somehow belonged to, or the concept of, I don't know, walking or dancing through rain was somehow a black form of expression, or I don't know what she was getting at. I did watch her video a couple of times, just tried to contextualize where she was coming from, but it was very hard to do, seeing as that none of it made any sense. Her account was, though, subsequently, I believe, blocked, because really we can't all be in an uproar over everything that white people do. It would just be weird, and some of the things that they do are just harmless completely. So that's what was happening this past week in terms of what was in the news or what was on the socials, which was quite entertaining this past week. So yeah, my life of late has been very consumed and overwhelmed with home reno and decor shows. Ryan just loves watching other people renovate other people's houses and turn them into something unique, something new, something fresh, which has been quite intriguing. So I haven't had much time to binge on anything on TV very recently, except, I don't know, whoever's house is being renovated next, which has been quite a bore for me, seeing that I do love more of the content that is more, I don't know, storytelling. But as a writer, obviously it would be for me that way. But something I really did find intriguing this past week while I was on the socials was what was I scrolling through? Was an article on cyber flashing in California. I don't know if this, well, it's a soon to be adopted law, would allow people to sue who send other people unsolicited pictures of their genitalia. Similar laws already exist in Texas and Virginia, and this is quite really interesting to me because I do know that obviously in a very digitalized world there is a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of, what do you mean I don't know? There's a lot of unsolicited dick pics or whatever, genitalia, that people do send around to each other as a form of either flirting, or in other contexts, sexual harassment. More times than not, for our female counterparts, this is exactly what happens. They do get unsolicited dick pics and other genitalia that is sent to them that they didn't necessarily ask for. But it did intrigue me in terms of apps such as Grindr and Scruff, where, I don't know, for gay men, this is primarily a way of flirting with each other, or I don't know why we do it, in fact. I really don't know why we do it. But where dick pics are usually sent to and fro as a form of, I don't know, romancing whoever's on the other line or on the other end of your text messages. So that was quite interesting to me. And how would this affect then such social media apps where this is primarily a form of, soliciting a sexual relationship between two people? That intrigued me a lot this weekend, just in the background of my mind. However, currently there've been no media reports of queer men suing other queer men for sending a dick pic or any form of genitalia for that fact. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I haven't seen anything about any queer man being sued by another queer man for sending or receiving a dick pic. But in future, what does this mean for us? Does this mean that as a grouping or sect of society, will gay men be required to ask for consent before sending dick pics? Never even mind just gay men. Will that mean that we will all actually be required to solicit some form of consent before sending such pics, for fear of being sued for no apparent reason other than sending a dick pic? I mean, I think that would be devastating if you just have a criminal record or some charge against you for sending a dick pic. Very interesting. I'm intrigued to see how this plays out, but maybe it will create a society where consent is actually at the forefront of many of the conversations that we have around not only our personal bodies, but how people engage with us. So that really intrigues me. I want to definitely see how that plays out. Something else that has taken me, or that I was really interested in this past week, was, these tweets around if being gay were a choice, and just some of the views that people have around that. I mean, a lot of them are people saying that, we're all human beings, like we should be able to decide how and who we choose to enter into an intimate relationship with, as opposed to having legislature drawn up in order to, allow for freedom of expression, freedom to be who you want to be. That's really intrigued me this past week. As always, I keep saying that it's quite alarming to me that, in 2022, we're still either trying to, and in many parts of the world, we're still either trying to oppress people from loving who they want to love, or writing that into legislature, and whatever the case might be. It's quite alarming to me that people still can't love the way that they want to love and who they want to love in this day and age. Some of the tweets are very hilarious, funny to read. Some of them are also just quite enlightening. Because being gay is not a choice. If it was a choice, good gracious, I would choose to be gay in every lifetime, in every version I come back in, because there's something liberating about it. And getting to love who you want to love, I think that's always important. And who knows, maybe in 4 or 5 generations from now, I don't know, the straights will just be a small little minority where everyone else is either gay, straight, bi, trans, non-conforming, queer, whatever the case might be. It's quite liberating that people are allowing themselves, I think is the word, allowing themselves to express the kinds of relationships they want to be in with other human beings, especially the more intimate and, do I want to say really lifelong partnerships people want to enter into. That always intrigues me, and I always find that really important, that we as human beings are owning some form of agency. But for me, this is always just discussion that lives in conjunction with many other discussions around the 21st century life that we're trying to create as a race, as a human race. So that was something that really intrigued me this past weekend. Yeah. And with all of that said and done, thank you so much once again for joining me for this Wednesday session of Wednesdays with Woody. As always, I'm always grateful for you lending me your ears and your time, for tuning in and hearing me rant about whatever it is I am ranting about on a weekly basis. As always, I can be found on all social media networks. Just search I am Woody Woods. Drop me a mail, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about the podcast, areas of improvement. I don't know, whatever topic you think would be of interest to discuss or gain views from. And I don't know, if you want to hop on board and maybe we can do a dual podcast. I'm always game. I'm always up for these little things. So let me know, and I'm wishing you guys just a crazy, loving, joyous, full of light, full of love week going forward. I will see you guys next week on another session of Wednesday with Woody. Who knows what we'll be discussing next week. Until then though, adios amigos.